as the disciples reported with joy. But unlike the disciples in that story, we don't want to come to you tonight saying, look what we did. We want to point to what our God has done. And so we want to come to you with that spirit. Before we go much further, I've asked Sarah Shanks as our new incoming missions president. Ms. Pearl has served faithfully in that role for years and felt it was time to step down, and Sarah, being her vice president, stepped into that role. So Sarah, would you begin with prayer for us?
Yep. Thank you, Darren. Bow your heads, please. Our kind and most gracious Heavenly Father, I want to come to you tonight and thank you, dear Lord Jesus, first of all, for your love and your mercy and your grace. I want to thank you, Lord Jesus, for the safety that you gave these missionaries as they went over, not overseas, but down south to work. Thank you for the safety that you gave them, for being with them each step of the way. May the work that they did go on and on and on, like Annetta was talking about this morning, about ripples in a pond. Yes. May their work be something that never goes away. Thank you, dear Lord Jesus. Be with them tonight as they speak. Let us enjoy what they have to say. Let us see you through the work that was done. These things we ask in thy name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Sarah. Well, we have the difficult task of cramming 10 days of adventure into, we're going to try to keep it an hour time frame. I've got a lot of pictures, video, slideshow to be able to show you. Just a brief overview as we begin. This trip was all about partnership. There were 5 churches total that were a part of this. There was the church where we served in the mountains in Santa Maria Tepentlali. There was a church in Oaxaca, the large city there, who came in and fed us and participated. There was a church in Ensenada, far away near Tijuana, that sent a team of people to join us and to partner and to work with us. And so those 3 churches in Mexico. But 2 churches here in the United States. In addition to Waverly, we were blessed to have 3 of their friends to us now, their family to us now. In fact, Pastor Justin, we're not giving them back. Debbie and Joey and Penny. This is Joey and Penny right here on the front row down here. And we've got some of our friends from Griffin's Chapel who are here tonight. Thank you all for being here. Pastor Justin is back here with his family. And thank you all for sending some of your folks to be a part of our team. And it really was a collaborative effort. We're so grateful for that. And Debbie was, I should mention Debbie, she was a part of our team too. She had a scheduled vacation right when we got back, so she's not able to be here. Nor is Cameron Jensen or Mac and Carla Anderson, because they had other things planned right after we got back. So those 4 have not been able to be with us. So, Pastor Justin, I'm keeping these 3, and I'm going to send you 3 of mine. I've got in mind the 3 I want to send to you right now. So with every mission trip, we stress from the very beginning 2 very important mindsets. That is unity and flexibility. We do everything we can throughout the course of the trip to preserve, protect, maintain, build up unity, and also to be as flexible as we can. Terry mentioned this morning physical flexibility when you're on a work site is important. Mental flexibility. One of the things that a mission trip teaches you is how inflexible you actually are. You learn that the hard way, and we needed to, and we all kind of, as we got on the mission trip, we realized that unity and flexibility are more than just words, but that we had to really practice and be able to live them out. So we heard a little bit of a brief report this morning. I want to share a little bit more as we continue to go forward. I also want to say that we had some curveballs thrown to us before we even left that tested our flexibility. Dave Frazier wasn't able to go because his mother was going to near passing away, and she actually did pass away while we were gone. So he stayed behind. Pastor Justin was able to go, was going to go, but he had a conflict at the last minute, so he wasn't able to go. And then Don and Catherine McGuire with the health scare with Don. He's okay now and he's doing well, but he had a health scare before we left, and so they stayed back. And so we had a few curveballs there, in addition to some lodging changes that were kind of thrown upon us with 2 weeks, 2 weeks before the trip. So our flexibility was tested from the very beginning. But that happens on every mission trip. On every mission trip, something or several things happen. And it's just a matter of, are we going to be flexible when those things happen? And so we were tested before we even left the ground. Everybody really stretched when it came to their comfort zones. We all were really stretched when it came to that. You're going to hear about some of that tonight. And then the next thing that I'll say before we get into the work is that this is our 7th mission trip in 7 years, and they're not comparable. What some of us have tried to, in some ways, compare. They're not comparable. Each mission trip is its own animal, its own thing, and they're all different, and they're all wonderful, and they're all hard and challenging and beautiful and all that. But it's really hard to compare one to the other. It really was. They're all different in their own right. So let's start, and I've got a couple of microphones here that we can have. Let's keep this one down here on the bottom row. I'm just going to give that one to Miss Delilah because I know she wants it. And I'll send this one up here. And so we're going to start by talking about the wall. One of the main reasons we went, okay, yeah, you can make jokes. We went to Mexico to go to the wall. So let's look at some pictures of beforehand. So this is the hill that was dug out, and we had to put the retaining wall in against the hill so that they could come out and build some classrooms. And then let's go ahead. Terry, you want to walk us through some of this? Some of these pictures?
Sure. Our folks didn't see this.
Right.
This was already done before we got there. But that first picture was partially when the dirt, when they started removing dirt. There was a kind of a hill down through there. So they took all that dirt away. Up that building that you see up there, when all the dirt was removed, we were about 3 feet, 3 or 4, 5 feet away from that. So all of that dirt got removed, and the next picture shows you how that was done. It was not done with excavators. It was not done with backhoes. It was done with hard work. Some of those folks are men. Some of those folks are women. Some of them are young. Some of them are old. But the dirt, when we got there, all that dirt was gone. So that's just another picture. There's a tree there that we didn't see it. They took the tree down as well. Going to the next picture. Yeah, so this will give you an idea of some of the you see that wall. You see shovel marks. Okay, look on the dirt. Yeah, that's shovel marks. And then when we got there, the foundation, the footers had already been poured, and there's some rebar that's sticking up out of the ground. But our job was to build that wall, assist in building that wall. Some of those stones were small. Some of them were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pounds, probably 500 to 800 pounds that we had to move them around like the Egyptians did with the pyramids. Put them on rollers, inclines, long inclines, and scotch it as we go up, and have as many people around it as you can to get them up there.
No, we were. There's no equipment. We were the equipment. So,
yeah. There were no backhoes, no excavators.
And we were there with work gloves and steel-toed boots, and they were there with open-toed shoes and loafers and bare hands. Their hands were like leather, and so yeah.
Okay. This just takes you through the progression. These next three or four pictures. So the wall is being built. Just go on to the next, and you can kind of see, this is about where we left it when we were done. We were pulling out Tuesday afternoon, and within a couple of hours after we left, the rest of that was completed. Again, that wall is about 8 feet tall, close to 2 feet, it's about 22 inches at the top, and about 5 feet at the bottom, about 40 feet long or so.
And one of the things, if you weren't here this morning to hear Terry, this is an earthquake-prone area, about 1,000 earthquakes a year. That's why this retaining wall was so important on the side of the hill to build out with the classrooms.
So on the back side of that, there will be backfill. All of the dirt that they took out gets to go back. So this is the picture of what it looked like after we left.
This is yesterday.
This is a picture from yesterday. So you see how much work got completed. See that the stone wall got completed. They used block. These are solid blocks. They're not concrete blocks like you and I are experiencing. They were not as big, but they are, again,
They were solid, yeah.
they are solid.
Yeah.
So you'll see a solid piece, a horizontal piece there in the middle. Those are full of rebar and concrete. So that gets tied in with the rebar that's running this way. They'll be forming around that, and that's how they will hold up this building. This building will eventually be 3 stories tall. They will start with the first floor. They'll put a deck over the top of that, and a future project will carry it on up. But their intent here is, if they do have another earthquake, those blocks may fall, but the reinforced concrete will still be there.
Right.
So they'll just come back and replace that concrete, those concrete blocks, and they will continue to do business.
So this is for classrooms for the kids. Let's move the microphones to a couple of people who want to chime in about this. While you're moving the microphones to them, we did a lot of dirt work around it by wheelbarrow and shovel, and we just dug out rocks, carried rocks, brought them, and put them in their place. And there was they called him Maestro. He was kind of the foreman, and of course you're working with 3 different languages there. He would be standing on top of the wall, and it's like a puzzle, putting the rocks in place, right, all different shapes. Maestro would stand on top of the wall, and he would pick up just a pinch of wet mortar. He'd see a rock out there in the pile that he wanted, not being able to communicate with us. Pick up a pinch of wet mortar, and he'd throw it and hit the rock he wanted, and then that we knew to go bring him that rock. And so that was kind of our system. Some of us who all of us did this, but some of you speak to what we did here. Going and getting the rocks, moving the dirt, building the wall. What do you want to talk about?
One of the things that we did have wheelbarrow and shovel, and we did have wheelbarrow and shovels and stampers.
Campers, yeah.
Some of the women that worked along with us, they were in dress clothes. They wore sandals, they wore dresses. They were amazing and
We're tough.
They were really tough.
Yeah. All right. Anybody else want to chime in about this piece of it? It's going to be.
I just want to add on to as far
Go
as
ahead.
the ladies doing the work, they work rings around me. I mean, they pushed them wheelbarrows, they moved them rocks, it was amazing.
It was. Yeah. Good. Anybody else? Well, let's move to. We'll come back to this if we want to, but let's move to one of the really important things we did. We didn't realize how important this was going to be. Our ladies planned and worked ahead of time to have a foot clinic for the ladies there. Obviously, you can imagine this is a very rural area. I compared it to kind of Appalachia of the last few generations here. Just hill folks, mountain folks, simple living, not many resources. And so you can imagine some of their feet were in pretty rough shape. Our ladies went, and some of us ladies who are part of that, tell us what you did for the ladies there. And we can start looking at some of these pictures as you do that.
Well, this was one of my favorite things because it's kind of like Netta preached this morning, the ripple effect. And everything that we did for these ladies, they in turn did it for the ladies in the community.
That's right.
And it was just, was it 2 times? Was it just 2 times, or did we do it? The days kind of run together.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was my favorite thing.
So
'Cause
specifically, what did you do, Ellen?
we washed their feet in warm water, and then we changed out the water and we rinsed them. And then when we started rubbing the lotion on them, that she just, they loved it. They did. That was my favorite part. They loved it. It was humbling.
Very good. Did some of you other ladies talk about this and what it meant to them and what it meant to you?
When we got there, we sat down with the pastor and his wife and kind of made a plan for the week. And she said, "Oh, you're gonna wash our feet. What kind of devotion are you gonna do?" Well, we didn't have that in the plan, so got together and got a devotion together, and it ended up being more than just washing their feet. but a time of prayer. And you can see in some of the pictures. And whenever I went to them and asked them, what would you like for me to pray for? Their answers were just amazing. And we'd sit there and we'd pray, and we'd have an interpreter interpret for us. And the women would just cry, and they would hug you, and because they stay so busy. I mean, their busy is different than our busy, but they work hard, and it's like they never stop and take a second for themselves and to understand that we love them and we want to help them, we want to pray for them. So it was very touching.
Okay. And as Ellen mentioned, we left a lot of foot care supplies for the ladies to, in turn, do the same thing for the community. And before we left, they were bringing ladies from the community into the church who had not previously been a part of the church and providing that same care to them. So that was really a beautiful thing. Some of us guys on our team tried to get the ladies to take care of our feet after that, but they wouldn't do it. I would say, you got such a blessing out of caring for their feet. Don't you want to have this blessing? But never mind. Okay, so the kids ministry. Is there another picture after this one? Kids ministry is next. The kids ministry, Pastor Mary, would you tell us about what that church's ministry is to kids in the area, and then talk a little bit about what we did with kids ministry here.
Okay, their children's ministry is they really go all out on Saturdays. They open up their doors for children in the community, not just their church kids, but for any kids in the community, because there is a nutritional problem there. It's extreme poverty, and they open their doors and they feed the kids a variety of food groups so they can have those, and they play games with them, and they sing happy birthday to them, and they love them. That's what is so impressive. I was looking through the pictures that we have of the Saturday event, and it's not the same kids that we got to know that are a part of the church. These kids are kids who only come on Saturdays, but in that one day, they know the love of Christ from this church, and it was truly amazing.
This is a church that's really impacting its community by feeding children in the community who need to be fed. About 90 kids from the community every Sunday come for this meal, and so we were able to be there for it, to participate in it, and it was just a beautiful, beautiful thing. And then in addition to coming alongside of them for the feeding the kids, we provided some other children's ministry activities. You want to talk about that?
Sure. When we went, we had a little bit of miscommunication. We thought we were leading a 3-day VBS, so we were planning and working really hard. And when we got there, that kind of didn't happen, which was fun. We actually brought a lot of supplies. I think that the ways that we were able to engage the children actually were way better than a 3-day VBS. Every free second we had, you could find people in the church playing with the kids, and they would take the supplies that we have, like a tennis ball, and they would play with it for like an hour. And they would see a cone, and they would come and make games. They would make games out of everything that they found because they're creative like that. So honestly, we led them in a song, and we did get to do a little bit of structured activities. You'll probably see the parachute game picture, but we thoroughly enjoyed loving on those kids.
This is their sanctuary. It's very much a multi-purpose, multi-use space, concrete floor, and everything is done in here. Their meals are done in here, their worship, their activities. You saw soccer a minute ago that took place in there. And this is that same Saturday in which we fed them. Any other pictures on this one, Don, before we move on to the next area? Anybody else want to chime in about the kids' ministry? All right. I think the next thing is the Shoes That Grow. This was a last-minute thing that we went to the missions convention for our district, and I previously heard about Shoes That Grow, but it just wasn't on my radar for this trip. When the missionaries spoke about Shoes That Grow, some of the delegation from our church started asking, do they need that where we're going? And so we asked, and they did. And if you're new to this and you need to look up Shoes That Grow, look it up and see. It's a really neat thing. They're shoes that adjust at 6 different points, and they grow 5 sizes over a period of growth for a child. And so we were able to, both of our churches combined, to bring 132 pair of Shoes That Grow. And so let's look at some pictures here. Who wants to talk about, you're involved in the Shoes That Grow, helping put them on feet. Somebody who hasn't spoken, help us tell a little bit about the blessing that this was. Joey, you talked a lot about how it impacted you. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, these kids, especially on the kids and the adults, it's just like you give them $1 million, or like you gave us $1 million. To them, it was just something new, and it breaks your heart. They don't get nothing new. But the next day, after they got the shoes, you'd see them running around in them, playing soccer. And they come up and they point at their shoes, and they smile, and
Yeah.
they loved them. And the adults, and there's pictures of them. Like one family, mother had her shoes, and she was just tickled to death. She just wanted her picture took with her. So I don't know if they got that picture or not, but I know I took a picture of it. And they were tickled to death with the shoes.
You know, most of them had used old shoes, fallen apart, toasted and ruined.
Yeah, their shoes. I mean,
This was a need. And driving into town and out of town, we passed their school, which was, I don't know how far would you guess the school is away that they walked to. A couple of miles maybe, I'm guessing, was about the distance away to their school that they're walking every day to school and back, in addition to everything else that they do. So this is a definite need. Great tangible way for you, our churches, to hear about this need, to give toward it, and then we were able to go and put those shoes on feet. And so that was really incredible. Anybody else want to share about that?
I just said, I know I've talked a few
No,
times,
you're
but
fine.
a little girl, and I don't remember who she said it to. She said, people come and they bring us things all the time, but we never get anything new. And you would see them when they took their shoes off, they would pull their feet back because they were embarrassed of the condition of their feet or their socks or their shoes. And this was a moment of pride for them, so it was really powerful.
That's true. Good, thank you. All right, we were also there. We did not have any medical or dental, or medical and dental divided into two groups here, Pastor Mary? I see
Yes,
medical clinic,
medical.
okay. So we were there, at our visit coincided with the medical clinic and the dental clinic. We don't have one medical person or dental person in this group. But we jumped in and helped. We participated, and there was a dentist there was a doctor there, and we were just working alongside of them, helping, doing what we could. So with the medical clinic, one of the things that we did, thanks to a number of people, I know that Candace really helped us, and a number of others, we were able to take, it was about 100 glucometers. This is something that is very rare there, because nutrition is such a problem. You can imagine diabetes is high, but they have no way to check it or know about it. And here's something that I learned when we got there. The doctor who was facilitating the medical clinic, he did not even have a glucometer. So he was thrilled just that we brought 100 of them, so at least he would have one to be able to check people with. So we brought those, and this is Joey and Penny here, checking blood pressure and doing the blood sugar checks and doing that work, and so they were participating in that. And Penny, I'm going to get you to talk a little bit about this. Joey and Penny did this. It was throughout Saturday. We had to do it when the doctor was there, and so they had to miss Sunday morning service, the Sunday morning worship, and Joey and Penny were out there doing this work all day Sunday too, because that's when the doctor was there. So I told them, if you're going to miss worship, that's a good reason to miss worship, caring for them. So talk to us a little bit about the work that you did.
Well, they don't have a doctor there. The closest one is 4 hours away. So they tried to see as many people as they could. I think the first day we seen 85, and the next day we seen 79. What me and Joey did, Joey took the blood pressure, what I did, the temperature, the height and weight, and the blood sugar. And these people were just thankful that we were there to help them.
Yeah. We put up a makeshift examining room. We set up a curtain in the dining area, and the doctor was back there and seeing patients back there and tending to whatever was needed at that point. And then let's look at the dental clinic next. So dental, now back to medical for just a minute. Mike, did you set a splint for a person? So I said we had no medical people. Mike Turner is definitely not a medical person. Let's get a microphone to Mike here. Mary, if you go back one. Tell us what did you do? Was this a child or an adult?
It was a boy about 12 years old, I think. He broke his phone.
All right.
And we took skill saw and cut his two splints out, and the doctor and I said his phone.
All right. Very good. First time. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. All right, the next thing. Sorry, somebody's good, Joe.
Also, we used Mike. Everything was in centimeters. Of course, we had to measure the height. So Mike come up with the idea on the step going into the kitchen to measure the height.
Mark off centimeters.
Centimeters.
Yep, there you go. And then we also had a dental clinic. There was a dentist and a dental student there. The dental student was one of the pastor's daughters from one of the teams. And so, again, you can imagine in this area, malnutrition's a problem, sanitation's a problem, and basic hygiene is a problem. There were, I'm guessing, about 80 children out in the sanctuary at this point. And the young lady in the middle there, she is the daughter of one of the pastors who's a dental student. Her name is Stephanie. And our crew was up there holding posters as she was talking about dental hygiene. We gave every child a toothbrush. We put toothpaste on every toothbrush, and there was a bucket up front as we instructed them how to brush their teeth. Some of those children, it was the first time they'd held a toothbrush in their hands. The parents were in the back. The education was also important for the parents. The parents needed to know this as well for themselves and for their children and for their community. So this was very, very important. Somebody talk about the dental care and the work that was done there. Vernon, let's get the microphone to Vernon. Vernon was a big part of the education. So let's talk. Vernon, talk about what you all did with the dental education.
Well, basically what you said, I believe Sam here done a lot more of showing the cards and everything. I just passed out toothbrushes and toothpaste. And followed what the instructor was doing with the toothbrush, and evidently I've been brushing wrong. So, but yeah, all them kids, boys, I ain't never seen that nobody so thrilled over a new toothbrush. So,
Yeah.
it was awesome.
Very good. All right. And then Terry, tell us what you did for the dental clinic, because Terry had a unique job for the dental clinic. Tell us what you did.
I was a dental technician that day. My job was to sterilize the instruments that the dentist was using.
Okay.
So you take all of these instruments that have been used, you Clorox them, you rinse them, and you put them in a sterilization solution. You get them scrubbed and all that stuff, and you make sure that they stay in those solutions for the correct amount of time. And you realize that if you don't do this right, you're going to pass along something to somebody else. So this was the pharmacy. They used this small building. It was probably a 12 by 12 little building, and so display cases around. They brought in a portable table. It's probably a physical therapy table, but they used it, converted it into a dentist office, a dental chair at that point. So the small children, adults, senior adults would come in, and they would be either Stephanie was the dental hygienist, would clean teeth. She would do those kinds of things, and if there was a tooth to be pulled or anything like that, the dentist would do that part. And some of my job was just if it was a small child, to try to comfort with restraint, okay?
He held legs down while they pulled teeth.
Yeah. So if you need any dental work, I can do it now. I watched several teeth being pulled.
Yeah, very good. That was a real blessing. That was something that we were there for. That we didn't go in with any technical, expertise in dental work, but we were able to be there and do what we could, and it was a real blessing. It really made an impact in this community. Anybody else want to speak about dental before we move on? Yeah. Jane was brushing her own teeth or other people's? Jane was brushing a child's teeth. Good. Very good. Very good. I think the next thing to talk about is the water purification. So, I think you've heard or you know that the water is not safe to drink in Mexico. And some of us experienced that firsthand this week. But the interesting thing, there's not clean water in this community. By the big bottles, it has to be trucked in each week, and the big bottles cost 24 pesos in the markets for families to get to have clean water. A peso is roughly 20 cents right now, or maybe a little bit less than 20 cents. There was a nonprofit agency that worked with Nazarene Compassionate Ministries to put a water purification unit inside of the church building to purify water. This now is the only water purification system in this community. And the church is able to provide those same bottles of water, instead of 24 pesos at the market, 7 pesos. To bring that cost down for people, to make it affordable for them to have a basic necessity. We had nothing to do with that. We just happened to be there for the ribbon cutting, and they pulled me. I would have worn a better shirt if I'd have known I was going to be there. They had the mayor there. It was a big deal. But they had us up there to cut the ribbon on this water purification. This is a really big deal for this community. And we didn't do any work for this. It just, again, happened to coincide with us being there. It was really neat for us to be a part of. Anybody else want to say anything about the water purification project we got to be part of? No?
The water was good.
The water was good. The water was good, yeah. Yeah, very good. All right, let's talk about the next thing. We got to be there. Another surprise was we got to be there for a showing of the Jesus film, which is really cool. The Jesus film has been shown in so many countries. So many people have been come to know Christ around the world because of the Jesus film, and we got to be there for a Jesus film showing. It was the first showing of a Jesus film for everybody on our team on the mission field. Anybody want to say a word or anything about the Jesus film? Miss Adriana, let's get the microphone down to Adriana there.
It was the little girl friend's friend. I can't remember her name.
Esmeralda.
She asked me the next day if I have seen the Jesus film before, and I was like, yeah. And she says, more than one time? I was like, yeah. And she says, well, I hope I can get to watch it again. So that girl really,
Yeah.
that touched me, because, we watch it on Christmas and whatever, but then they watch it and they're just ready to watch it again, so that was special.
The Jesus film was on Saturday. It followed the medical clinic, the dental clinic, the kids feeding ministry, and our kids' activities. Saturday was our fullest day. And the community was there at the church. And at one point, the pastor looked around and he said, I don't know how many people were there, maybe 150 or so at the moment. He looked around and he said, I'm looking at all these people and I don't see one person from my church. They were on site. The community just came in for all this stuff. And so they were there for all this, for the care and for the Jesus film. And it undoubtedly spoke to a lot of people. I think the next piece is the worship services. We were able to be in 2 worship services two basically. And they're in Santa Maria Tepencuali, and then one back in Oaxaca before we left. Talk a little bit. Let's talk about the worship services, and there I am with 2 translators, one from English to Spanish, and the other from Spanish to Mije is the native language. So talk about your impressions of the worship services. They were 3 times as long as ours, James says. Yeah. Let's get right down here. Yeah.
One thing that impressed me was how the children worshiped. They put their whole heart into it. It was very evident that it wasn't, it was just real. It was awesome.
Very good. Very good.
I know God is moving in that church big time. He's there. It was a little, of course, services was 3 times as long. But yeah, God is definitely moving there. by all means.
Yeah. Anybody else want to share about the worship services? The music was almost all in Spanish. There were 2 songs they did in Mije, but the rest of it was all in Spanish. There were like 2 songs that we knew, and we could sing the English lyrics alongside of them, but most of the songs we didn't know. What was it like hearing a sermon in 3 different languages? Was that a challenge? Because it sure was a challenge preaching it in 3 different languages, let me tell you that.
There for a point, I guess, it was strange to me that I could actually, when he was reading, I could almost follow him with, now it wasn't in Mije, but when he was doing it in Spanish, you could almost follow him. So it was pretty good.
Okay. Very good. Anything, Terry, you want to mention about the worship? Anything that you noted about their worship services?
It was lively worship. They had a good band. They had a drummer, guitars, extraordinary worship leader, had extraordinary personality, and a keyboard player that he was probably about 12, maybe 13 years old.
Very gifted.
Very good. Very good.
Good job. Good. All right, let's take a moment to talk about the accommodations. This was where we needed to really put our flexibility into practice. Let's get a microphone to Lindy as we talk about her first night in the community. All right, Lindy, go ahead. Let us hear it. Well, let me back up. Let me set the stage. So we thought when we went we'd be staying in a common quarters on church site in sleeping bags and cots. Before we left, we found out we were staying in the homes of the people, which made us a little bit nervous because you never know what that's going to be like, people opening their homes to us and all that. Accommodations were pretty rough. Some of them were dirt floors, bathroom in buckets. Their water system is above ground, black hoses that run through the town with a nozzle at the end of a hose that gets to a house, and you turn on the nozzle to get a little bit of water, and that was it. That's what we had. And so most of our rooms are pretty small, brick and tin homes, no air conditioning, electricity about half the time. During their rainy season, their electricity goes out a lot. And Lindy's first night.
A big phobia before I ever went was the fear of sleeping on the floor in a sleeping bag and creepy crawly things that I don't even know in Mexico. So that was out of my comfort zone in the first night there. I had a room full of spiders. I did not sleep for like 48 hours. Needless to say, I slept with my shoe. Well, I didn't sleep, period. But the whole night I slept. I didn't sleep. I sat on my bed, reading my Bible the whole night with my flashlight. And every 5 minutes I'd scan the wall. I'd sleep with my shoe and I'd smack that wall.
And Fran heard the smack in the wall with her shoe all night long, she said. Yeah.
All night long.
Yeah,
The
very
Lord
good.
saw me through it and got me feared. The next night before I went to bed, needless to say, I cleaned that room. And there was no more spiders. They didn't come in my room. But how the rest of them slept, I don't know.
Very good, very good. And while we're on sleeping accommodations, these are mine and Sam's bunks. Sam and Vernon and I were the single guys who stayed in a home. It was just a little bitty one-room home. That's about half the size of the room right there. Mine on the left and Sam's is on the right. Just wooden frame, thin mattress. Sam's on some crates on the floor with an air mattress, and just the brick walls and concrete floor, and that's what we had. So there's a picture. Our setting was a little bit nicer, not by our choice, but I think some of our team had it a little bit rougher than the picture you see there. Some of the rest of us talk about our accommodations and what that was like.
You didn't need an alarm clock every morning.
Why not?
Right outside your door was at least one rooster. Or a donkey, or a turtle,
Dogs.
or dogs. So, they were either fighting, but you didn't need an alarm clock, because by the time daylight came, the turkeys and at least the roosters were up and about. So,
The rooster started around 4 or so, roughly, and then they just went all through the day. They never stopped all through the day. I thought they'd start in the morning, crack it on, and be done, but no, they kept going. So some of us wanted, I think Terry said rooster and dumplings was one of our
That's what I
requests
wanted
for
for the
meals.
first night.
Yeah. Delilah, would you tell us about your room and your situation there and your accommodations that you all had?
Our room was a small room. We had 2 beds pushed together on crates and blocks, and there was 4 of us in that room. And so Cameron had an air mattress on the top. Mary, Kelsey had a pool float, and then Mary had multiple layers. Because I mean, it was just like a box springs. And then I had a air mattress that I had on the floor. So we had room enough to make us a little path, you know. And electricity the first night, and after that, no electricity. And no heat, no air. But you know what? We managed. I want to say even enjoyed it. We enjoyed the fellowship, the closeness that we had. And no running water, no shower, no, the buckets. But one thing that really touched me with our host lady, she handed us her little bar of soap for us to use. She had given us basically everything that she had. And, giving up everything that you had, that's a blessing. And yes, we're going to make the best of what we've got and focus on why we're there, to show Jesus.
Very good. Good. Somebody else talk about your sleeping accommodations.
Me and Benny, we had a wonderful host. But our first day there, we found out that we was sleeping in a room of a 3-year-old. And he was not happy.
Because he got kicked out.
Yeah, he got kicked out because we were sleeping in his room, and then he came up and he was Masugasa. But the next day he warmed up, and we loved on him the rest of the week. And just talking about air mattress and electricity, me and Penny thought, okay, we're going to take us a thick air mattress. That didn't work.
Yeah.
With the temperature going up and down, the cool air, it deflate during the night, of course. Like you said, we didn't have electricity maybe a couple of days we were there, so we wound up sleeping on a box springs.
Yeah.
But we made it. God got us through it, and I'd do it again.
Great. Let's talk about food. Let's get the microphone back to Vernon. I want Vernon to chime in about food. And then let's get the microphone to somebody else. Signal if you want the microphone to talk about food next while Vernon's talking now. Vernon took pictures of every meal. And if you want to see every meal we ate, just go to look at Vernon's phone. He'll show you all the pictures. Tell us about what was typical food. What was it like? Tell us about it.
Typical food was the hand-done tortillas and black beans. I think that was about for every meal. Maybe pico de gallo, tomatoes, just kind of normal what you think. I figured we'd have more beef than we did, but I think we had beef one night, which was great. But the food was awesome. The ladies that prepared it, whether it was from Ensenada, was that the one?
No, Oaxaca.
Oaxaca.
Yeah, Oaxaca.
And then the ladies from the church
The local church.
started Saturday. Amazing what they had to work with. Do we have pictures of their? They had I guess fire bricks.
Yeah.
And they would climb up there and they'd have a fire going and they'd be cooking on top of that with a pan, and and just making some beautiful stuff.
You see those pictures in the slideshow that we're gonna see in just a minute. So.
And, but Sam has something to say about his, I eat everything. I would eat everything except one thing, and Sam manned up and he done an awesome job. I think here's some right here. And it was a delicacy.
While we were in Oaxaca, the last meal that we had, the church had served basically tortillas, beans, tomatoes, all that stuff. And one of the other churches there, a guy there named Carlos, he came up to me with this little dish of crickets. And he said, try some. So I told him no, and then I was wearing a soccer jersey, and he said, oh, it's because of the soccer jersey, so he basically called me out. So I kind of had to at that point. And I did.
And for those of you who may not know, crickets is a common food in a lot of places around the world, especially places that they don't have a lot of access to meat, because meat is a luxury around the world. Crickets are high in protein, and so they're very much a normal food. And so Sam ate the crickets, Kelsey ate the crickets, and Penny ate the crickets. Ellen ate the crickets. The difference is Ellen didn't know she was eating crickets. And they came back up. Yeah. The others knew they were eating it. Ellen didn't know what they were till after she ate it. So. Yeah. Give me a microphone down there. Yeah. Tap it.
I didn't do it. Don't look at me.